I think we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to my new YouTube channel, Patrick Goes Wild. You are tuned in to Wild and Live. Really excited to have you all here. This is really exciting. Before I tell you about what this show is all about, I want to take a second to wish everyone well during this super duper challenging time. I know that it's affecting a lot of us. I hope everybody's staying safe, practicing good hygiene and social distancing where you can during this global pandemic. I know it's affected a lot of you out there, parents, teachers. So I hope that everybody is doing really well. It's a bit of an odd time right now. Everybody's stuck indoors. I know that parents, teachers, especially kids, are stuck at home, and that kind of brings me on nicely onto what I'm doing today. So what is Wild and Live? Well, it's a new series of online conversations and live lessons, and we're going to be looking at the dopest, the freshest, the coolest animals on the planet. And also we're going to be introducing you to some wildlife experts, conservationists that get to work with those animals. So that's going to be really cool. Now, I've been inspired by a few other friends, wildlife presenter friends of mine, who've also got some online resources that you guys can check out. But mainly from teachers. I've got a lot of friends who are teachers. My sister is a teacher, and I know this is a pretty tough time for all of you trying to figure out how you're going to manage teaching kids from school and providing them with some sort of resources during this time. We don't know how long we're going to be self-isolating for. And so that's why I started this new series. So let's get into it. I'm going to explain how this is all going to work. I'm looking down because I've got this broadcast system that I'm having to juggle whilst talking to you. So bear with me a moment. I hope that the sound is coming in well. If there is a little bit of delay, please forgive us. We're trying to figure out how this is all working, but and also if there is a delay or a lag and you can't see this, don't worry. This is going to go up as soon as this live stream finishes in about 20 minutes. It's going to go up online on YouTube, so you can watch it after the live stream. So we're going out every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 11 a.m. I'm really hoping that the internet holds up. Please, internet gods, keep this going. But if you, like I said, if you have any problems, you can watch this show after the broadcast. Now, the benefit of going live is that I can see on the side is a chat box right here. So I can see all your questions coming in. I can see all the chats coming in. Please, if you have any questions for me, whether it's about filmmaking, whether it's about biology, my favorite animals, what I think is the coolest animal strategy out there, please send those questions in right now. I can see that the chat is live, which is great. One thing to remember, though, that this is a place for everybody. This is a place for family, I know that a lot of my friends are watching right now. You should be working, but no, keep me up in the top right-hand corner of your screen. And also kids. So please, anybody that wants to get involved in the chat, remember to keep your language squeaky clean. Right. Okay. So let's get further into it. Like I said, if you have any questions, please pop that into the text box in the bottom right of your screens. And if you are going to be sending any questions via social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, even LinkedIn, please use the hashtag WildAndLIVE. So this week, we're going to be joined by some real fabulous guests, including, wait for it, a cheetah. Yes, a cheetah live on air. So on Wednesday, first of all, we're going to be joined by a really good friend of mine. Her name is Ruth Pesey. She is a polar explorer, expedition leader, and a wildlife filmmaker. And she's been to Antarctica no less than 5 times. 5 times! Ruth, I'm super jealous. Please take me on your next trip. Please. Deal? Yeah? Pinky promise? Great. Okay, and then so she's going to be talking about her experience in Antarctica, but also she is absolutely penguin mad. She loves penguins. So anybody out there that loves penguins, please make sure you tune in on Wednesday at 11 a.m. And have your questions ready. Have your questions ready for us, so then we're going to get straight into it and we can get those questions over to Ruth. And then on Friday, we're going to be joined by Desmond Gauss. He is going to be coming to us all the way from South Africa. He runs a conservation center. Actually, so we worked together on a series of mine called Big Cats. If you want to see that, you can catch it on Sky. Just type in Big Cats, it should come up. And we were filming servals, a beautiful cat that has this really cool strategy. They have these huge ears and they listen out for their prey. And then once they hear their prey in the grass, a rodent, they just launch themselves up and pounce on their prey. Really cool. I describe them as like the supermodels of the cat world. So really cool creatures. And since then, he set up Running Wild Conservation. And he, along with his team, are running a cheetah breeding program because cheetahs are on the decline. So that's what they're doing. We're going to be dialing into his conservation center. And hopefully, as long as everything works, we're going to be able to see him with his cheetahs. So any cheetah lovers out there, that's me, make sure that you tune in to our stream on Friday. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so I think we've got about, a little under 15 minutes to go. I'm going to stop there. I'm gonna tell you about some of my filming adventures and some of the cool animals I've seen, and pepper that with some cool animal facts. Hopefully that will keep you entertained and you will be able to learn something new. But before I do that, I'm going to check on our questions. Let's have a look. We've got Annabelle, who's 6 years old, and her mum watching from Oxfordshire. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really excited that you guys are tuned in all the way from Oxfordshire. And you're excited about the penguins later this week. Yeah, I love penguins. They're really cool. Let's have a look. Any more questions? None. Come on, where are your questions, people? I want and I need your questions. Okay, I'm going to ask myself a question then. Patrick, what's your favorite animal? Well, thanks for asking, Patrick. My top 3 favorite animals have got to be, in no particular order, orca, killer whales. I've always had a passion for killer whales. That kind of goes back to my childhood. I remember one of my earliest memories actually was of a killer whale that was at Windsor Safari Park, what Legoland used to be, and they had a dolphinarium. And this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, before people really started thinking about whether or not these animals should be in captivity. Nevertheless, I remember seeing this show, and I just remember being perplexed, and my mind was blown at seeing this huge animal interacting with this tiny person. And so, yeah, orca, I've always had a soft spot for them. I am hoping that I get to swim with them. Now, most people would run a mile at that thought. I literally can't wait to get into the water with killer whales. I think you can do that up in Norway during the herring run, which is in the winter, around November. So fingers crossed, you never know, later on this year, depending on how things go with travel, I could be in Norway swimming or snorkeling with killer whales. Second favorite animal has got to be the cheetah. I think they're just incredible. The fastest animals on the planet, on land, I should say. They can run at up to 80 miles an hour. Their bodies are so sleek, and that's because they are trying to chase down their prey, so they need to be as lightweight as possible. But even though they're deadly predators, they are also quite fragile. But the thing about cheetahs is it's not just about straight line speed. It's also about cornering ability. And cheetahs have the ability to corner really quickly. Think about it like an F1 car, as opposed to a drag racer. A drag racer, bang, it goes, and it's just going in a straight line. Whereas an F1 car needs to be able to go fast in a straight line, but also have high cornering speeds. That's like the cheetah. The cheetah's like an F1 car. And finally, on my list is the peregrine falcon. Incredible animals, birds. Everything about them is geared towards being a top predator. That sharp beak, incredible eyesight. Their body is almost shaped like a dive bomber. Super sharp talons to catch their prey. And for me, my exposure to them and the reason why they're one of my top 3 favorite animals came about after having the opportunity to film with them. So this was during a shoot on one of my first, actually it was my first ever film shoot as a presenter. It was my first series called Super Senses, The Secret Power of Animals. And in this series, we were looking at animal senses. So we looked at sight, sound, and scent, and how animals use this to their advantage, how it differs from our senses, and how in some cases they have better sensory abilities than us. So on the sight show, we wanted to demonstrate or talk about the exceptional eyesight of the peregrine falcon. Now, peregrine falcons are birds of prey. They're related to hawks and eagles, and like those birds of prey, they have exceptional eyesight. That's where the term eagle-eyed comes from, because when you have the ability to see something really quick, or you have really good eyesight. And so we wanted to put this to the test, and for that we enlisted help from a friend of mine. He is a birder and falconer. His name is Lloyd Buck, and he had trained a peregrine falcon called Moses to respond to certain objects. Now he'd raised Moses from a chick, and so it was really beautiful to see this interaction between Moses and Lloyd. And Moses had been trained to tends to respond to this yellow lure. It's a yellow pack which Lloyd has on the end of a piece of string, and using that lure and swinging it around his head, he's able to get Moses to swoop in and dive and try and capture this lure. And for me, peregrine falcons are one of my top favorite animals, and they're so incredible because they have this ability to nosedive at 180 miles an hour. Now, I was doing a bit of research this week, and there's a I think it's Space Magazine. Now let's have a quick look and see which website that was at. Let's have a quick look. I want to make sure that we get this. I was checking out a website which supposedly says that they recorded a peregrine falcon swooping at 240 miles an hour. I don't know how true that is. I need to look into that a little bit more, but you can understand that these animals are super fast. So we set this in order to test out Moses' eyesight. We had this plan for this elaborate setup. We made our way down to the Brecon Beacons National Park in Wales, and it was a perfect location because you've got lots of different mountain peaks, and so the location that we chose was going to have a distance of about 1.5 miles between these two peaks. And this is how it was going to work. Moses was trained to respond not only to that yellow lure, but also to a panel of black spots. And so Moses was going to see this panel from hopefully about 1 mile or 1.5 miles away. He'd recognize that big panel had black and white spots on it, and so he'd fly to that panel in order to get his food reward. But at a certain point, that panel with those black spots on it would eventually start to blur out. It'd start to look grey. And this is what we refer to as visual acuity. So if you compare the visual acuity of a peregrine falcon to a human, the peregrine falcon's visual acuity is even better. But what is visual acuity, I hear you ask? Well, the way I like to describe it is it's like when you're looking at a TV screen. So you're watching me now on your laptop computer, on your portable device, and those screens have pixels on them, and that's what generates the image. The more pixels, the better the image. So if you compare, say, a standard definition TV, if you compare that to an HD TV, that has more pixels. So even if it's the same size, that HD TV has greater clarity and greater detail. Likewise, if you have a 4K television, you're going to see things in even greater detail and even greater clarity in comparison to the HD TV. And that's the same thing that happens in our eyes and the peregrine falcon's eyes. But what are the pixels? So the pixels in biological terms are photoreceptors. Now, photoreceptors are light-sensitive cells at the back of our eyes. That's what makes up our retina. And they respond to light. They send a signal out through the back of the eye, through the optic nerve, up to the brain, and then the brain interprets that as an image, as the world around us. Now, we have about 90,000 photoreceptors per square millimeter in our eyes, whereas peregrine falcons have almost double that amount. So you can start to understand that they can see things in that greater detail, as opposed to telescopic view. In the past, it was thought that perhaps they could almost zoom in like a lens, but that's not the case. They can see things in better detail. So we wanted to put that to the test. Unfortunately, anybody that's been to Wales will know that the weather doesn't stay the same for very long. The day that we got there, it was perfect conditions, blue skies. We woke up and it was completely foggy. It was a total washout. We ended up changing the plan so that we made it about eyesight and maneuverability. So we end up having this bird, which, remember, can dive bomb at 118 miles per hour, fly through my legs. Yeah, it was pretty mind-blowing at the time. Now, on that same series, we also filmed with a very interesting animal, one of the smelliest creatures on the planet. I'm, of course, talking about the skunk. Now, skunks are small mammals, about the size of a house cat. They are native to the Americas, thankfully for us over here in the UK. And they are related to the weasel family, but they are, as we all know, are notorious for that ridiculously bad smelling musk of theirs. And they're able to use this as a defensive weapon. So skunks have 2 anal glands either side of their anus, and then they have these muscles on either side of those glands. And those anal glands produce a complex variety of compounds. This liquid, which is a sulfur-based compound known as thiols. And these thiols smell really, really bad. And actually, if you get it in your eye, it can cause temporary blindness. That's how bad it is. But the question is, why does that skunk have that defensive weapon? Well, if you think about where they live in the Americas, there are a whole bunch of different predators: grizzly bears, wolves, coyotes, cougars that would happily take this skunk for a meal. So these skunks need to be able to defend themselves. And they do this through the use of that musk. As soon as any one of those animals gets sprayed by that musk, they know to stay clear. But the trouble is for the skunk is that they can't just keep on spraying this musk like unlimited. They have about 5 up to about 10 sprays. After that, it takes a couple of days for that defensive musk to build up again. So that's why they've evolved to have that bold coloration, those black and white stripes. Some skunks are spotted, so they have slightly different patterns. But it's that bold coloration that those predators start to associate with that bad smell that helps protect the skunk and prevents it from getting eaten by a big predator. So yeah, really cool adaptation there. I, however, didn't listen to this coloration. There's those warning marks. I didn't heed. I had a very interesting experience with them. I took a trip to Arizona, again as part of this series, Super Senses, and I met a guy called Kevin Overfield. Now, Kevin is he's a pest control manager, and so he, for a living, goes around people's houses and remove skunks from their houses. So in the States, people have the way they build their houses, you can actually get underneath the house. So he goes underneath, and any skunks that have kind of holed up, he takes them out, he takes them back to his house, and then he puts them in the chicken coop. He has a chicken coop. And then once he's got a couple of them and he's ready to go out to the woods, he puts them in a transport cage and releases them. And he asked me to give him a hand. I happily obliged. And I thought, okay, I've got this under control. I'm going to be able to grab this skunk really quickly. I'm going to twist its tail so that its anus, its butt, is faced away from me and put it into the cage. So Here we go. We go into the chicken pen. I walk up slowly to this skunk, and Kevin gives me the all clear. He says, "Right, here's your chance. There's your chance. Grab the skunk." I grab the skunk by the tail. Doesn't harm the skunk whatsoever. Picked it up, and as I was putting it into the cage, I turned its tail to face, so its butt was faced away from me. And just as I put it in, turned its backside around, bang, 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 straight in the face, up the nose. It was disgusting. It smelled like burning rubber and garlic. Really, really terrible. I wouldn't recommend getting sprayed in the face by a skunk. The problem for me, though, like I said, these compounds are made out of thiols, sulfur-based, and they take a really, really long time to break down. The only way they break down is by oxidizing with the oxygen in the air. So it's a really, really slow process. And that smell stayed with me for about, that really intense smell stayed with me for about 2 days. And then it took about a week to get rid of. So yeah, not too pleasant. I think we can see a theme here, can't we? I like to put myself in in the line of fire. Let's see, we've got about, how long do we have? I'm going to check up on our stream, see how we're doing. We are about 20 minutes in. I'm going to go on for a little bit longer. I'm going to spend another 5 minutes telling you about another animal that I have, that's kind of really touched my heart. I've got a little bit of a soft spot for. I think probably there are thousands, if not millions of people out there who also love this animal. I'm talking about the rhino, also known as a chubby unicorn. Oh, that's what some people call them. Now, in the world, there are let's count, 5 species of rhino. You've got the Javan rhino, the Sumatran, the Indian or one-horned rhino, and then you have the African species, the black and white rhino. Now, for me, that name always was a bit, always kind of caught me out because they're not really black or white. They're kind of grayish. And I always had a bit of difficulty telling them apart. Well, I'm going to tell you how you can tell a black rhino apart from a white rhino. Now, the name white rhino supposedly actually comes from the Afrikaans and Dutch word. White. So in Afrikaans, it's W-Y-D. In Dutch, it's W-E-I-T. White, which translates to the word wide. Now, this doesn't refer to the size of the rhino, although white rhinos are bigger than black rhinos. It has to do with their lips. They have these wide, square lips. And the reason they have these wide square lips is because white rhinos are browsers. Sorry, they're not browsers, wrong way around. They are grazers. They like to graze on grass, on short grass. So they have those square lips to enable their teeth to get as close to the ground as possible, so they can graze on the grass on the savannah. When we look at black rhinos are browsers, and because they're browsers, their lips are slightly different, shaped slightly different. They've got pointy lips, and the top lip is prehensile, which means they can move it around. So they can actually grab onto the leaves of low-lying trees, bushes, and shrubs that they like to eat. So yeah, they're also known as the hook lip rhino, and the white rhino is also known as the square lip rhino. Square lip rhino, hook lip rhino, that would be a far more better description than the black and white rhinos. But yeah, that's an interesting fact for you guys. I went to film these white rhinos this time last year. I was at the old Pedgeta Conservancy. I'd actually like to take a second to say thank you to Simon Jones and the UK charity Helping Rhinos, because they were the ones that helped me and a filmmaker friend of mine, Ben Harris, to get out to Kenya. They helped us organize that trip. And it was amazing because I really wanted to tell the story of the white rhino and also the rangers that look after them. So Old Pedgeta has the last 2 northern white rhinos on the planet. And the reason why there are only 2 rhinos left is because rhinos are being persecuted. They've been poached pretty much to extinction, and for their horn. Now, their horn is seen as a status symbol and is used in traditional medicines in China and Southeast Asia, which is a shame because not only are you killing these animals for their horn to sell on the black market, but their horn has no medicinal properties whatsoever. It's made out of a protein called keratin, the same material that our fingernails and our hair is made out of. So it doesn't have any medicinal properties whatsoever. But they are being killed for that purpose. It's really sad. And for me, I think it all comes down to education. It's about educating the next generation around the world, not just in China and Southeast Asia, but around the world, to let people know what is really going on. I think that one message that I think is really important to share with everybody is that when it comes to conservation, if you care about conservation and animals, you really don't just care about animals. You also care about the landscape and the habitat that they live in. But you need to also care about people. We need to care about one another. And the reason I say that is because those poachers are usually locals or people that live in those countries where rhinos live in, and the reason why they're poaching is because they are under stress. They might have a loved one who is really ill and and they can't afford their medical bills, and so they are are in those positions where they're trying to get money. And the interesting thing is that only a fraction of that money goes to them. Most of it goes to other people, third parties who are organizing that crime from abroad. So yeah, I think we really need to think about conservation as from a humanitarian point of view, because if those people have good sanitation, education, good business opportunities, they are not going to resort to poaching. So it's a bit of a shame for those northern white rhinos, because there are only two left, Nargin and Fatu. The last male, Sudan, died almost 2 years to the day on the 19th of March 2018. And with his passing, it meant that now northern white rhinos are functionally extinct because there isn't a male to mate with those two females. However, I want to end with a positive spin. It's not all doom and gloom, because the interesting or cool thing is that there are a group of scientists. I found this out when I went on my trip to Old Pedgeter Conservancy. There are a group of scientists who last year, and this is so cool. This is like Jurassic Park level science. These scientists were able to pull off this really delicate procedure. They were able to collect a number of eggs from Nargin and Fatu. And of those eggs, I believe 7 of them were inseminated with sperm from male rhinos that was collected before those male rhinos passed away, and those 7 eggs have matured fully. 2 of them are now at embryo stage, and they have been frozen in liquid nitrogen. The hope is that one day, hopefully this year, perhaps, we never know, that those scientists will be able to take those eggs, those embryos of the northern white rhino, and use IVF procedures and implant it into a southern white rhino, which is very closely related to the northern white rhino. They're different subspecies. And hopefully, if that works, we could see the birth of the first northern white rhino in about 20 years. So good luck to those scientists. It's a story that I'm following really closely. I'm really hoping that I can make a program about it. It would be incredible to see that first northern white rhino baby birth. So that is, I'm going to leave it there. I know we are running a little bit over. We're aiming to keep these sessions about 20 to 25 minutes. Before we end, I'm going to have a look through some of these questions. All right, let's have a look. Have you ever had any experiences with hyenas? Says Will Hill. I have, actually. That was twice. I think both times. Once was in South Africa and once in Kenya. No, both times were in Kenya. Hyenas they've got a really bad rep, haven't they? I think that probably comes from The Lion King, because they're the baddies, but hyenas are really cool. They a matriarchal society. The women run the shop. And one of the things that I noticed when filming hyenas is how gentle they are. Super gentle, really cool. I'm hoping actually to have a conservationist who works with hyenas, Mikhail Shevchenko. If you're watching this, Mikhail, I would like you to be one of my guests. Let's have a little look. Let's see. Ellie's been joined by her brother Jameson, whose favorite animal is also a cheetah. Good on you, Jameson. Let's see if we've got any other questions. LEK says, how did I get rid of the smell? I couldn't get rid of the smell. I just had to wait for like I said, for the oxygen in the air to slowly break down that musk, and it took about a week. Like I said, my flatmates were not too pleased with me. Okay, I think that is time. We're at half an hour. Most of these sessions are probably going to be about 20 minutes, but we're going to keep it nice and loose so that we can get all your questions in and that you can get the most value. So as I head off, I want to say a big thank you to all of you guys for tuning in. It really means a lot that you're watching this. If you have any questions, please remember we're going out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you've got any questions, please get them all lined up, and then you can join us on this live stream and you can put it into the chat. And hopefully we can get those those questions answered for you. Wednesday, we're joined by Ruth. Friday, we're joined by Desmond and his cheetah. 11 a.m. I'm really excited. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you want to ask any other questions, you can go on Twitter, social media, use the hashtag WildAndLIVE. My name is Patrick Aryee, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to catch you on Wednesday. I will see you then. Take care, guys, and thanks for tuning in.